Hey, so this new series that I'm doing is about children in the zodiac. So this is about, children and their personality traits and their strengths and weaknesses and how astrology can help you determine your child's personality, or if you're not a parent yet or you're not a parent, if you're a teacher or a coach, you're someone who works with children or you have nieces or nephews, whatever the case is, okay? And so obviously children are not all the way developed yet, but you do often see a lot of their personality traits as a child that do trickle into adulthood. And kids don't know how to take their weaknesses and make them strengths. So as people get older, they often learn how to do that. But as a parent or a teacher or a mentor, whatever you are, there are some ways that you can work with each zodiac sign in order for them to better their skills and strengthen their weaknesses. Okay, so I'm gonna start with Virgo because I know Virgo the best. But I'm gonna start with Virgo. And I think, in general, when we think of a Virgo child, for the most part, many of them are very obedient. They don't like to rock the boat too much. They're ruled by Mercury, and so there's a very like mental awareness with this sign. And so they think a lot. Some of these children overthink things, and they sometimes find it just easier to just go with authority, go with the flow. Whereas Capricorn can follow rules too. Capricorn can be a little bit more defiant. The Capricorn energy child can be a little bit more defiant. But Virgo and Capricorn, for the most part, tend to follow rules pretty easily. Okay? Now, Taurus is another earth sign that doesn't necessarily follow the rules. They understand the rules, but they don't necessarily follow them as well as Virgo and Capricorn. The Virgo child tends to, for the most part, and again, you have to look at the whole child's chart. And again, children are children, so there's going to be things that don't manifest until later in life. But for the most part, Virgo children, you don't have to tell them to do certain things. They'll just do it if they know it's an expectation. That whole perfectionist part of them. And so it doesn't mean they're a perfectionist with everything in their life. But if a Virgo child knows when they come home, they put their shoes in a certain place, they're going to do that. The Virgo child knows after they eat, they're supposed to put something somewhere, they're going to try to do that. The Virgo child is usually a child of routine. They go through similar routines. For the most part, Virgo children, a lot of them are pretty predictable. Again, you have to look at the whole chart. If it's a Virgo child with a Aries moon, obviously you're going to see some differences there. Okay. But another thing about, Virgo children, for the most part, is like they tend to, be pretty intellectual. They're ruled by Mercury, which deals with the mind and thoughts. And so they can be kind of quiet at times, but they do know and hold a lot of thoughts in their mind. As far as learning goes, a lot of them can be really good at picking things apart, usually intellectual things. It's not really a Virgo thing to be good at hands-on things. So some Virgo children, some depending on other influences as obviously, but like they sometimes have to work on things that are hands-on because a lot of them are so like in their thought process or afraid to take risks. If you're a parent or aunt or uncle or teacher or whatever, coach of a Virgo child, they often are afraid to take risks. So that's good when it comes to making bad decisions. They typically will think things through before they do it. And so they kind of won't fall with the wrong crowd because they're going to be thinking about, well, if I do that, what's going to happen next? But at the same time, Virgos are really good at blending in. And so Virgo child could, very well know what the plan was, but they're not going to go along with the bad kids who did something wrong because Virgo thinks about it. They know, oh, if I do this, then there's going to be, they understand cause and effect pretty easily. Okay. Now, as far as taking risks, it can stunt them. So it's really good to get them out of their comfort zone. It's really good to, expose Virgo children to other things besides what they're interested in if you want them to be well-rounded, because they'll become masters of whatever they continuously do because their natural energy is to be routine. And so if the Virgo kid is constantly reading, they're going to get really good at that. If the Virgo kid is constantly playing basketball, they're going to get really good at that because one, they want to be a perfectionist. They want to be the best at something. If they're, whatever it is that they're doing, drawing, they're going to get really good at it. Okay, and they're mutable signs, so they can be good at a variety of different things. And a lot of them like to test their limits. They're not really competitive outwardly, but they're competitive almost with themselves. But at the same time, they're apprehensive about taking risks and doing new things that are not a part of their routine. So some Virgo children can get stuck in that, whereas like they develop some fears or they develop, a very introverted way of looking at life and looking at new things and like, oh, I don't want to do that because it's not, I'm not good at it. Whereas Taurus doesn't want to do something because that's not in their comfort zone. Taurus energy is more so like, I need to be comfortable in the way that I feel in this surrounding, even though it's an earth sign. Taurus is about their environment and how they feel in response to their environment. There's a lot of Taurus energy there. Virgo was more so, I'm not going to take a risk because I'm afraid it's not going to work out. There's a difference there, see? And Virgo children can be prone to anxiety and worrying, so it's also good to sometimes, let them know, like, okay, you got a B, you wanted an A, it's okay. Sometimes they can overwork themselves, getting and be very anxious. Also, sometimes Virgo energy, they can shut down when they feel they're not good at something. And so it's not defiance. Virgo is not a very defiant sign. Now, don't get me wrong. You got a Virgo who has some Aries in them, or Sagittarius or Leo. That Virgo energy is going to change a little bit. You see what I'm saying? So you have to speak to look at the whole chart. But for the most part, they're not defiant because they want to be defiant. It's not an ego thing. They're defiant because they don't feel, they don't think that they're going to do well in something. They're defiant because to them it's like, well, okay, I've tried this, it didn't work. So sometimes they can have a kind of defeatist attitude at times, and it's really, good to boost them up. It is good to help them understand that they can't always be perfect at everything. Everything they do is a representation of how much effort they put in. And so it's very easy for Virgo people, and children especially, to shut down when they don't do something well. They just shut down. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm going to avoid it. And so sometimes if you see if a Virgo is shutting down and refusing to do something, it's typically because they've been made to feel like they're not good at it. Okay, or they don't feel they're going to accomplish what they need. Remember, it's the earth sign is materials. And by materials, I mean something has to produce something else. And when they feel like I'm doing this, but it's not producing results, they can get very, very frustrated. Much like Scorpio, Virgo can come across as not being very emotional sometimes. But at the same time, don't mistake that for the fact that they don't need love and affection. They do need love and affection. They're not going to show it in the same way. Virgo and Scorpio, I think there's some similarities, and they don't really like to show vulnerability. Virgo more so in the sense of like being very process oriented, and Virgo can sometimes, and Scorpio too, but Virgo can sometimes have very defeatist mindsets about other people. Like, oh, nobody, especially as a child, like nobody really likes me or nobody cares anyway. So it's very important to give that Virgo child a lot of love and attention, even though they're not a Leo child who's going to kind of demand attention. And they're not really like a Libra child who's going to want to connect with people all the time. Virgo child, you want to bring them out of some of that introversion that they can be prone to. And you want to, encourage them to it's okay to show emotion. It's okay to express how you feel. They can bottle up a lot of different things because they're so mental. Like, right, everything's a mental process. They analyze things, but sometimes they don't express those things. Especially as a child, there's a lot of different things that they don't really want to tell people, or there's a lot of things where they don't really know. They have all these words in their head, but they don't really know how to connect emotionally sometimes and really share those different things. But for the most part, they're very helpful. These Virgo children are very loyal, usually to their friends. Virgo children are typically they have a mind of their own, though. They will not just follow just what their friend said. So that's a positive. Even though Virgo is not a very, sometimes you could say they're not the most expressive sign when it comes to how they feel or who they are. Virgo is really expressive with ideas. They're really good with like breaking things down. But Virgo, unless there's some other energies there, like Leo and Sag or Pisces or something like that, Virgo sometimes can kind of not really express that, but at the same time they have a really good moral backing sometimes. Like Virgo children, for the most part, like a lot of them, they have their own mind of their own. They're really not following the trends. They really don't care. Now, all kids can be susceptible to following trends, so I'm not saying that a Virgo child is never going to follow peer pressure, but I'm saying that there's a difference there because their awareness of themselves is very high. Because Virgo children can be introverted at times, even the popular ones, there's always some aspect of them where like they kind of just need to retreat to themselves, or sometimes they can be very quiet and reserved. Why? Because Virgo energy can keep itself occupied. A lot of mutable energy can do that, but Virgo energy for the most part is like their mind is always racing, so they always have ideas, right? And so for the most part, the Virgo child can keep themselves entertained without needing people around them all the time. Sometimes you're going to need to get that Virgo child out. Oh, your friend's having a party. Why don't you go to it? Oh, they're having this. Why don't you do it? Because they can get too comfortable sometimes in their own mind, get too comfortable in their own hobbies, and they need to learn how to, yeah, it's great that you can be alone and be introverted, but learning they can benefit more from, you know, being out in the world. They can benefit more from, you know, taking on new hobbies, new interests, you know, benefit more from being well-rounded. Okay, instead of just sticking to the things that they're comfortable doing because they know that they can master it, right? Because Virgo can get really good at something, really, really good, and then sometimes have a defeatist attitude when there's a new challenge presented that they're not, something that they're not good at. They can kind of like, you know, have a different response to that. All right, so that is it. I might do a video expanding a little bit more about Virgo children, but this is it for now. If you like this video, please hit the like button. Thank you for watching.